stopped loving like wrestling, would you struggle to walk away from like Give Me a Whole Year because Dom and Ant have given you this platform and position?
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
And you're watching Tom Talks Rubbish.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talks Rubbish, and today I'm back with another interview. This time, I'm joined by Danny from Give Me a Whole Year. So welcome to the show, Danny.
Thank you very much for having me.
So if we take this back, where does Danny first discover wrestling?
I actually discovered it through a friend at school when I was probably about 9 years old. He had been watching wrestling with his older brother for a couple of years before sort of meeting me. I moved in a few doors away and started watching it with him, got really into it. And it slowly built from there. And I think the biggest point for me was the 2000 Royal Rumble.
Oh, really? So what year did you first get into it then?
Probably 97, 98 was when I first sort of started watching it. And then 2000 Royal Rumble was on Channel 4, first pay-per-view that I've actually shown live. And I was still at school, so it was recorded, but it was pretty much my most viewed wrestling video. And it's probably still to this day.
Oh, wow. So what was it about the 2000 Royal Rumble that captivated you so much? Was it literally the fact that it was on free TV, so it was accessible, or was there something specific?
I think most of it was I'd watched a lot of the sort of new generation era with the Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, but then I'd also watched sort of like the older pay-per-views with sort of Hogan and Macho Man Ultimate Warrior. And that to me, I mean, even though I was only like 9, 10 years old at the time, 11 years old, it just was very cartoony back then. Yeah. And then 2000 Royal Rumble, you had Cactus Jack versus Triple H, street fight. You had the Dudleys versus the Hardys in a tables match, and it was very gritty and very realistic. And I think that was what sort of really caught my attention at the time. It was very gripping and very exciting. As a 10, 12-year-old kid, and you've got these guys bleeding all over the place, it was just sort of, to me, a lot more engaging. Even back then, I mean, back then I didn't really know what engaging was, but it was exciting. And
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah, it was new and it was very different to what I'd seen before, and it was more enjoyable. And I think that's what gripped me. And here I am 22, 23 years later, and I'm still watching it.
That makes me feel very old, because I got into wrestling around the same time. And when people say it's like 22 years ago, it's like, yeah, we have been watching for that long. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, how old are you again?
I'm 23, so I got into wrestling really young.
Very, yeah.
Like,
I'm 10 years older.
So like I've told my story enough, but like my dad was a big wrestling fan. So literally from probably about 6 months old, a version of wrestling was on. Had no clue what was going on, but it was still sick. Do you know what I mean?
It was still exciting seeing people sort of fighting and all the some of the wrestling moves that they was doing. It's all real cool stuff.
So, and if we continue on to present day, have you had like a lull?
I wouldn't say I do. Wouldn't say there was a time when I didn't watch wrestling. I always kept my eye on pay-per-views and sort of the bigger storylines that was going on. But probably I'd say 2011. Well, no, 2012, 2013. For probably about a 6-month period, I'd only watched the pay-per-views.
What led to that? Was it literally time?
I think it was just a bit of burnout, I think, really. After the storyline with Cena and Money in the Bank and CM Punk leaving, I think it was just, there was nothing gripping me and keeping me engaged storyline-wise.
Fair enough. So then, what brought you back in sort of the 6 months after that? What was something that got you like, okay, this is fun again?
I think probably it was a Daniel Bryan. There was, I think it was WrestleMania, I think it was 27, 28, where he got sort of destroyed by Sheamus.
28.
Yeah, and to me, that was ruining a great performer and a great story at the time, because it was with AJ Lee and everything with sort of that aspect. And I was like, oh, he deserves so much more. He deserves to be a world champion again. And I think it was the organic growth of him all the way up until WrestleMania 30, where he won the big one.
Oh, wow. So, and then, like, yeah, let me start that question again. Speech impediments are not helpful at this precise
It's 9 p.m.
moment.
in the UK, it's tiring, we know.
Exactly. So, what is it that, like, keeps you motivated in wrestling now?
It could be anything from a specific character or a specific story arc. It could be as little as someone put on a good match 6 months ago, and I want to carry on and see how good they end up doing in the future. And you've got people like, I mean, Liv Morgan a couple of years ago used to get a lot of stick. And the way that she's been performing the past couple of months on Raw with sort of Rhea Ripley and people like that, the matches that she's putting on are some of my favourites on Raw at the minute. And it's just, she was very green when she started, but now she can put on a great match with pretty much anyone in the ring.
Fair enough. So, moving on to your work with Give Me a Whole Year, how does that partnership, relationship, whatever word you want to use, how do you connect with the boys over at Give Me a Whole Year?
It started off with a very sort of stupid story. I'll start from the start.
Please do. We've got plenty of time.
I work in phone sales, and Dom came in to see me. Never met him before at the time, and we was sort of just talking about phones and other bits. And he ended up taking a pair of earphones off me. He was looking at getting some wireless earphones. I ended up buying a pair, and I noticed he was wearing a wrestling t-shirt. So I got sort of talking about the t-shirt, who we liked, who we didn't like. And he was like, I actually do a podcast with a friend, obviously being Ant. You should stick your head in the comments sometime. And this is just before we went into sort of one of the first lockdowns. So during the lockdowns, I went from doing a full-time job to doing absolutely nothing, apart from sitting at home, vegging, and basically doing absolutely nothing. And I sat and popped on the comments every so often, said hello to Dom, said hello to Anne, watched what they was watching. And it slowly built from there, where they started doing a prediction video for every pay-per-view. And Dom was like, do you fancy coming on? Do you fancy doing a predictions with us? So we did that. I think it was TLC or something like that, LNSL, in 2020. Did that. People seemed sort of like the views that I had, the storyline booking that I had of why I had these people winning the matches. Carry on, a few months later, still doing the comment section, just sort of saying hello. And there was like, do you fancy coming and doing Raw with Dom one night? Just to sort of give him someone to bounce off, because Ant is unable to do it. I was like, yeah, sure. If you need me to, I'll do it. So we did that once, twice, and it just slowly built. And after that, Dom was like, do you fancy doing it? And I'll leave you for the last half an hour just to finish it yourself. I was like, yeah, sure. Did that, did it a few more times. And then there was like, neither of us could do it. Do you fancy doing it on your own if we sort of set you up and show you
How
what to do?
nerve-wracking was that, by the way?
Oh, I mean, the sort of hour before that, I had my setup ready, I had my camera ready, I had my microphone ready. I checked the stream 2 or 3 times, make sure I had everything ready to go. I had all the key cue points on there. I had notes on the side, absolutely everything. And it was relatively easy. And did it again, did it a few more times. And it got to the point where Dom and Ant basically said to me, Monday Night Raw is yours if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, there's no pressure to do it. We'll leave Raw to you. If we fancy doing Dynamite, which obviously Ant does pretty much every week, if he can, Dom will do it if Ant can't do it. And I've done a couple myself, and they've just kept me sort of in the loop, doing little bits for them. I mean, I set up the Discord for us, where we have a great community on there where people can come in, chat, put their own views on. And because of how that was doing, Dom actually saw that and started doing it for his own Soundsphere magazine.
Mm.
And
So
it's just a nice little community.
It always seems like they have fun, even when there's like just me and say 2 other people in the chat. We always seem to always have fun.
Yeah, I mean, we try and sort of keep everyone, when we have people in the comments, try and give them something that they can bounce off back to us, whether it's, oh, do you think should win this match, or where do you see this storyline going? And I mean, one of the people we had in the comments a while back, we pretty much planned out the whole Raw storyline in the first 15 minutes of booking decisions based on matches that was happening. And we ended up picking 3 separate things that was all happening on Raw later that night.
Oh, wow.
Before it was announced.
I think that's just the thing on WWE's predictable booking. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. But it was one where it was just quite nice to have that engagement of back and forth between the comment section, myself, and picking everything that was actually happening, and it was just quite nice.
Fair enough. So what is your prep like for a live stream day? Is it sort of a thing where you're like, basically, what do you have to do to be sort of like in the zone to be on? Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Well, basically, my normal day off from where I work is a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So on a Monday, like today, I start work at about 9:15 in the morning, and I finish around 6:15. On a normal day where I'm covering Raw, I will come home. I'll get home between sort of 6:30 and 7:15, based on traffic, what time I finish my jobs. And then it will be, have a little bit of a chill out, have something to eat, have a chat with a girlfriend, and then it'll be, I'm in bed at 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and just trying to get a couple of hours sleep in before. No, it's fine. That's why I've got these energy drinks ready to keep me going. I'm already prepared, don't worry. But yeah, 8, 9 o'clock, just get 3 hours sleep, 2 or 3 hours sleep, wake up again at about midnight, grab drink, grab something to eat, get laptop set up ready to go, get my stream ready and working, make sure I'm all ready to go. So by 1:45 in the morning, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Most of the time, sort of the day before, I'm reading up what's happened on sort of SmackDown, watching highlights, reading the Raw preview of what's happening on the night, just so I've got a little bit of background information. But a lot of it is literally play by ear, watch what's happening on screen, feed it back to the channel.
Fair enough. So how much wrestling do you keep up with that you aren't like required to watch now then?
I always watch pretty much every week, Monday Night Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown. That is my weekly basic sort of standard wrestling that I watch. If I can, I'll probably try and watch a bit of Rampage, just because sometimes there's some good matches on there.
Yeah.
If I am a good match on, Elevation or Dark, I'll stick that on. Usually on my break at work, just for something sort of in the background. And then if there's a big show on, like I think it was New Japan's Dominion yesterday.
I think so, at time of recording.
Yeah. I'll sit and I'll watch the full show. I might not know who's in every match, but I'll just like to sort of watch some good wrestling every so often as well with stuff like that. Get different sort of characters, different stories, and different matches under the belt.
Fair enough. Something you brought up earlier, which I'm very curious to talk about, is you left wrestling for 6 months because of burnout, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what have you put anything in place to prevent burnout now? And do you actually, that's the second part of the question, so I'll get you to answer the first part first. I ramble a lot. I do apologize.
It's fine. We've got time.
Yeah. So what was I saying? So like, have you put anything in place now to prevent burnout?
Not really. I think back then it was consume every bit of wrestling that I could find. Whereas now I'm not more selective, but I'll just sort of manage what I watch a bit better. So I won't sit up all night until 2 or 3 in the morning watching whatever the latest pay-per-view was, just to say I'd watched it before going to work the next day.
Yeah.
I'll go to bed at a reasonable time, go to work, and then I'll catch up afterwards. So I'm not losing sleep over a wrestling show that I've not got much interest in. Whereas before it was watch New Japan, watch Impact, watch WWE, laugh every single night, and it was affecting sort of how much sleep I was getting. So I think that was where a lot of the burnout was caused. And then there was no interest in characters at the time. So I was watching stuff that wasn't engaging me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now I won't lose the sleep if there's nothing that's engaging me on the shows.
Fair enough. So, and then with the second part, and I am really curious to know this, like if you stopped loving like wrestling, would you struggle to walk away from like Give Me a Whole Year because Dom and Ant have given you this platform and position?
I think me and Dom had this sort of a similar question/conversation about it a while back. And it was like, if you don't enjoy watching Raw, don't do it. And I was like, I enjoy watching Raw because I've got people with the comment section engaging. It does make it a lot more enjoyable. If it wasn't for sitting in the comments, watching people, sort of interacting with stuff like that, like I probably wouldn't watch it live. I'd probably watch it in the morning on the day off.
Yeah.
But sometimes it'll be where there isn't anything exciting going on, but the comment section is making it exciting for me because we're planning storylines and we're planning what matches we'd be booking. And that's where I get more of the enjoyment out of it now. So what's happening on screen in terms of WWE Raw isn't as enjoyable as what I'm actually doing in the chat.
Fair enough.
So it's one where the comment section is making it more than what Raw actually is.
Do you think you could, like there's, because I've seen videos out there where like people will watch Raw, but they won't watch it live. They'll watch it without a chat and just watch it. So people have got to watch along. Could you basically watch Raw without the chat on YouTube, or do you think the chat is almost like your safety blanket?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there with the safety blanket.
Is that the phrase?
I think it's a good one for it. Me and Don have watched some appalling Raws in the past. Peak lockdown when they had the Thunderdome, and
that was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's terrible bringing it up now. We've got crowds back, but when we say them words, we do really sort of cringe because of how bad it was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them Raws that we sat and watched live, we was sort of trying to find an excuse of why we shouldn't do it. not why we should do it. We should do it because we've got people that are coming in the chat and saying hello and engaging with us. But we were saying it's that bad. Can we force ourselves to sit and watch it?
Yeah.
And it's one where now the crowd's back, there's a bit more excitement, there's a bit more atmosphere in the show, which is more enjoyable for us. And there's sort of a lot of things happening, which, I mean, the Judgment Day storyline I'm intrigued with. And stuff like that is just making me excited about watching it again.
Fair enough. One thing I am curious to know about is your chemistry with both Dom and Ant. Because you met Dom in person the first time you met him, has that changed your chemistry at all? And like, how different is your chemistry with Ant to Dom? And who do you think you have the best chemistry with?
I think all three of us are very sort of similar in terms of what our likes and dislikes are. I think I'll always have I don't want to say it, but I think I'll have a bit more of a closer connection with Dom because I met him in person first.
Yeah.
And I mean, I absolutely love Ant. He doesn't like me.
What a guy, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I met his sister at Sparda's one night, and she was just sort of singing his praises in every area. And I was like, you're preaching to the choir. I know exactly what Dom is like. Dom is a go-getter. He's an entrepreneur. He's got so many different fingers in different pies.
He's my mentor. I say this all the time. Yeah. Like, he's someone that I look up to so much. 100%, and this is going to give him a big head. So, you know what I mean?
We'll just crop this little bit out. This will be just between me and you.
Yeah. But what a guy. But
yeah,
I'll put it this way. If you'd gone to like a different wrestling platform, do you think it would be the same? Or like, do you think because you had that interaction with Dom in person, that helped it in some ways?
I think sort of meeting Dom in person first off was a great sort of starting point because I'd never sort of done sort of podcasting or anything on YouTube. I mean, there is a video of me on YouTube when I was 15, but that was a video from when I was on.
Find video.
I'll send you a link afterwards.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, I was on Look North when I was 15 for something completely different to wrestling. So that video itself is on YouTube, which I'll let you see afterwards.
Fair enough.
But with something like that, Dom sort of helped build my confidence in the chat side of things. And then it was always with me to start with when I was doing Monday Night Raw with him.
I was just going to ask you, what have you learned from Dom when it comes to podcasting and live streams?
You can have the best show on the planet that you are watching, but unless you have the engagement from the people that are watching you, there's no real point in it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not engaging with your viewers and your viewership, then there's no point them being there, which means then there's no point us being there.
Yeah.
So the more interaction, I think, the more interaction that we can have with our viewers and our followers, whether it is Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, the more interaction we have with them, the more likely they are to come back and help build the channel themselves and tell other people about it.
Yeah. So as we wrap this up, we're going to go into a segment now that those of you that have seen my videos before is called Generic Questions. Those of you that have seen my videos before will know this is where I ask my guests their favorite match, favorite pay-per-view, favorite theme song, favorite wrestler or superstar, and favorite tag team of all time. Basically, questions that I'm sure they get asked on social media. And then now they can be like, look, I've answered this. Go watch this, please. And so what's your favorite match of all time, Danny?
Personally, I've got two. First one, I alluded to earlier on, the Cactus Jack Triple H Royal Rumble 2000 street fight at Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one of the first matches that ever gripped me. And the second one was Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, WrestleMania 24, the retirement match. It's the first time in wrestling that I have actually cried at a match, and it was the emotion in there that made. I think that was one of the main reasons where Ric Flair's in my number 1, number 2 spot of all-time favorite wrestlers because of that match.
Fair enough. So I wouldn't normally ask it in this order, but you alluded to it. So favorite superstar or wrestler of all time?
Ric Flair and Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, they're in my top 3. Depending on what day of the week it is or what matches I've recently watched, then can be interchangeable.
Fair enough. So favorite tag team of all time?
Tag team, I would probably go the Hardys because it was just a cool aesthetic, cool characters at the time when I first started going into it, and they just felt very me, very sort of not alternative, but very sort of like on the edge of what's acceptable in terms of mainstream at the time.
I get you. And favorite theme song of all time, like wrestling entrance theme?
Oh, I think, even though it's a very recent one, at the minute, my favourite is Judas.
Fair enough.
I can just put that on in the car, turn the volume all the way up, blast it out, and I'll just sing along all the way home from work.
I've got, speaking of work, just not to make this about me, but this story really makes me laugh. So I work in a cinema right now.
Yeah.
And we have a playlist of like all staff members, like they request songs that goes on the playlist. The Judas came on a few weeks ago, and no one knew I was a wrestling fan. And literally, I'm sitting at what's called the drop box, is where you go and scan your tickets and say, this is what screen you're in. And literally, my boss looks over at me and I'm just air guitaring at the Judas bit.
Nice.
I love that song. But anyway, as we wrap this up, favourite pay-per-view of all time, Danny?
Favourite pay-per-view of all time for me, ECW One Night Stand 2005.
Why does that one speak to you so much?
Because after sort of 2000, 2001, when they sort of did tone down a little bit of the violence, going back to an ECW pay-per-view with all the grit and the rawness of Hammerstein Ballroom, the ECW characters, it to me felt again very Royal Rumble 2000.
Yeah, I get it.
Basically gave me that nostalgia feel. And I could put that on probably once a month, twice a month in terms of sitting and watching it again. And I can keep watching it and still enjoy every single match, every single high spot the crowd cheer.
2005. I'm trying to remember that one.
That was the first one where they brought back the ECW brand after the Invasion storyline. And they had the full ballroom and they had the section where the Raw superstars came in afterwards, and then the SmackDown.
Is that the one where Heyman cuts the promo?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I do know which one you're talking about now. I apologise for that. My memory just didn't work very well there.
So it's the one where he shouts up at JBL. The only reason you were WWE champion for a year is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays.
And hide your wives, it's Edge.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's one
brilliant.
of the best lines ever.
I love that promo. But as we wrap this up, Danny, I want to obviously say thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
The question I end all my video interviews on is, with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general, we're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of way. So what is one video that you're like, don't go back and watch that? I've grown a lot since then. And then what is one that you're like, if you guys want to see my body of work, go check that one
out? Don't go back and watch the video of me on YouTube when I was 15. Because it is that long ago and I look completely different. I mean, you're going to see it shortly anyway, so that doesn't make a difference now. I've said
Fair enough.
And go watch something like the Backlash stream that we did, me and Don, just because I think that was a very good show, and it just shows how we can engage with our own sort of social media and to sort of say hello to everyone. I mean, we've got quite a few people that come on a regular basis, so that show was a very good one for the interaction from the sort of comment section and Instagram and Twitter. So it just means that that's what we would like to carry on moving forward. So that's one of our good sort of shows where I think that we got everything right that we could.
Fair enough. So as we wrap this up, where can the good people find you and your content?
For the Gimme Whole Year, it's basically everything Gimme a Whole Year. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. For myself, most of the time, it's usually Dan Hargreaves 88 on Twitter, which is my one that I do use for a lot of the podcasting stuff. And then it's Dan Hargreaves 88 or Dan Hargreaves Photography on Instagram.
It's well worth doing, guys. So if you guys like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow bodyslam.net and the Wrestle Watch podcast on Twitter and YouTube for my show with Cassidy Haynes, the Wrestle Watch podcast. And follow TTR Clips for clips from my interviews on YouTube. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.